All right, today we're diving into this incredible story. It's a real high-stakes showdown pulled right from the pages of history. We've got one man surrounded by a mob that wants him dead, and he's got to use his wits and only his wits to survive. Let's jump right in. So we're not starting at the beginning. Nope. We are dropping you right into the middle of the chaos. I want you to picture it. This guy, Paul, has been grabbed by a mob in ancient Jerusalem, and they are screaming for his execution. The big question is, why? I mean, what on earth could someone do to make an entire crowd this furious? And listen, this is not just a few angry people. The text says they're shouting, literally throwing their cloaks off, kicking dust into the air. It's a full-blown chaotic frenzy. This is absolutely life or death. Paul is seconds away from being ripped to shreds. Okay, so to figure out what's happening, let's just rewind the tape a little bit. Turns out, Paul's just been pulled out of the crowd by some Roman soldiers. But here's the thing, their commander has absolutely no clue what is going on. All he sees is a massive riot with this one guy at the center of it all. So what's the commander's first guess? He thinks he's just caught some infamous terrorist leader. He literally asks Paul, "Hey, aren't you that Egyptian guy who led 4,000 assassins out into the desert?" I mean, he couldn't be more wrong. Paul's got to correct this, and fast. And right there, Paul spots his chance. He asks the commander, can I talk to them? He wants to try and calm this whole thing down himself. The commander, who's probably just baffled and maybe a little curious, says yes. This is it. This is Paul's only shot to stop the madness. And this is where we see his first just brilliant tactical move. He doesn't speak Greek, the language of his Roman captors. No. He speaks to the crowd in Aramaic, their language. And the effect? It's instant. The whole mob, which was just screaming for his blood, falls completely silent. Just like that, he's got them. Now that he has their attention, he uses that silence perfectly. He doesn't argue or defend himself. Instead, he starts building a bridge. He basically says, "Hey, I'm one of you." He tells them, "I'm a Jew, I grew up right here in Jerusalem." He even name drops his teacher, Gamaliel, who was this legendary, super respected scholar. He's laying down his credentials, showing them we're on the same team. And then he drops a bombshell. He admits that he used to be just as zealous as them. In fact, he was a violent persecutor of the very people he's now associated with. He's not trying to hide it. He's putting it right out there to show them, look, I get it. I know exactly how you feel. I used to be you. So the obvious question is, how does a guy go from being a top persecutor to a preacher for the cause? Well, he tells them. He recounts this one single event that completely flipped his life upside down. He tells them the story of what happened on the road to Damascus. And he makes it clear, he wasn't just some low-level hater. He had official paperwork from the highest religious authorities. He was on his way to Damascus with one goal, to hunt people down, arrest them, and drag them back to Jerusalem for punishment. This was his job. But somewhere on that road, around midday, this blindingly bright light from the sky suddenly flashes all around him. He's knocked to the ground, and then he hears a voice calling him by his old Hebrew name, Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me? He's stunned, and he asks, Who are you, Lord? And the answer is the absolute last thing he could have ever imagined hearing. I am Jesus of Nazareth, the one you're persecuting. Can you imagine? In that 1 second, everything Paul thought he knew, his entire reality, just crumbles. And the effect isn't just mental, it's physical. That light was so intense, it literally blinds him. The man who was a powerful hunter of people is now completely helpless, having to be led by the hand into the city like a child. Once in the city, this other man, Ananias, comes and heals him, restores his sight. But he also gives him a new mission. This former persecutor is told that he's now been chosen to be a witness, and not just for his own people, but for everyone, for all people, a total 180-degree turn. Okay, so that brings us right back to the present moment. Back to Paul standing in front of that crowd in Jerusalem. He's telling them this whole story, and up to this point, they've been listening totally silent. But he's about to say one little thing that's going to make the whole riot explode again. This is it. This is the line. He tells them that the voice told him, "Go, I will send you far away to the Gentiles." Gentiles, that one word is the trigger. See, to this crowd, the idea that God's message wasn't just for them, that it was also for non-Jews, for outsiders, that was completely acceptable. It was a betrayal of everything they believed. So that single word, Gentiles, that's the answer to our question from the very beginning. That is why they were screaming for his death, because to them, his message of inclusion felt like the ultimate treason. And just like that, the riot is back on, maybe even worse than before. You can just imagine the Roman commander, right? He is more confused and frustrated than ever. This prisoner of his almost got the whole situation under control, and then he says something that just lights the fuse all over again. The commander's had enough. He's done trying to figure it out nicely. He's going to get answers the Roman way. So he orders his men to take Paul inside the barracks and flog him, basically whip him until he talks. The soldiers tie him up, they stretch him out, they're ready to start. And for Paul, it really looks like this is the end of the line. No more tricks up his sleeve. But wait. Just as the whip is about to fall, Paul plays his trump card. He very calmly turns to the officer in charge and asks a simple question. But this question is like a legal hand grenade. Because flogging a Roman citizen who hasn't even been convicted of a crime, that was a huge career-ending offense. And the soldiers just freeze. The commander comes running in, totally stunned. "You're a Roman citizen?" he asks. Paul just says, "Yes." The commander, maybe trying to save face, says, "Well, I had to pay a ton of money for my citizenship." And Paul's reply just shuts him down. "But I was born a citizen." See, being a born citizen was way more prestigious. In that one exchange, the power dynamic in the room completely flips. And suddenly, the commander is terrified. He realizes he wasn't just about to illegally whip a Roman citizen, he had already illegally put him in chains. The tables haven't just turned, they've been thrown across the room. The torturers back off immediately. And now, the guy in charge is the one who's scared. So what's the big takeaway from all this? Paul survived what looked like a completely impossible situation because he was a master of using his dual identity. He used his Jewish background to connect with the crowd. That was his bridge. And he used his Roman citizenship to protect himself from the authorities. That was his shield. Just an absolute masterclass in strategy and survival. And that really leaves us with something to think about, doesn't it? We all wear different hats. We all have these multiple parts to our identity. So it makes you wonder, when is our identity a shield that protects us? And when is it a bridge that connects us to other people? Something to chew on.